In the beginning, there was order. Light pierced the darkness. Seas obeyed boundaries. Life bloomed where there was nothing but void. The same voice that said, "Let there be," also held the power to say, "No more." And that is where the question begins. Why does the God of the Old Testament, the creator of beauty, breath, and blessing, so often appear as a destroyer? Why does fire fall from heaven? Why do floods erase civilizations? Why do plagues stalk empires and armies crumble beneath divine command? To many readers, the Old Testament God seems terrifying, wrathful, severe, relentless. To others, he seems inconsistent with the God of mercy revealed later in Jesus Christ. To the modern mind, it is the Bible's greatest scandal. A loving father in one breath, a divine warrior of terrifying wrath in the next. The flood, Sodom, Egypt, Canaan, a trail of fire and water and blood across the pages of Scripture. Is this the portrait of a cosmic tyrant, a contradiction at the heart of faith itself? But what if destruction was never the point? What if judgment was not cruelty, but containment? What if these moments of devastation were not the opposite of love, but the final defense of it? Tonight, we journey through ancient texts, forgotten worlds, and divine decisions that shaped human history. We will confront the storms, the fire, and the sword, and discover why destruction in the Old Testament was not the end of hope, but the reason hope survived. The story of divine destruction does not begin with anger. It begins with grief. Genesis tells us that before the flood, the earth had reached a breaking point. Humanity was not merely flawed, it was consumed by violence. Every thought, every intention, every desire. Corruption was no longer occasional, it was systemic. A moral ecosystem where the strong devoured the weak, where humanity had ruined its way upon the earth. This was not merely personal sin, it was systemic, cultural cancer. The very fabric of human society had become a weapon against itself. The text does not say God lost his temper. It says his heart was filled with pain. Into this world steps Noah, a preacher of righteousness. The text implies a long season of warning, of a man building a colossal absurdity on dry land, a living testament to coming judgment. For decades, perhaps centuries, the door of the ark stood open, an invitation to escape the diagnosis. No one came. And so, the Creator who spoke the seas into being now unleashes them. The flood is not a random natural disaster. It is presented as a cosmic reset, a terrible, tragic unmaking to allow for a remaking. It is targeted, surgical, and absolute. It spares one family not of perfect people, but of those who still walked with God. The destruction has a purpose, to preserve the possibility of goodness itself. The water that destroys is also the water that cleanses, carrying the seed of a new beginning in a wooden box. God did not rush to destroy. He endured generations of moral decay, a world where power crushed the weak, blood soaked the ground, and conscience had vanished. The flood was not a tantrum, it was a reset. And even then, judgment was selective. One man, Noah, still walked with God. One family still carried obedience. The ark was not just a vessel of survival, it was proof that judgment and mercy moved together. Centuries later, another judgment loomed, this time in the land of Canaan. To modern ears, the conquest sounds brutal. Cities destroyed, peoples displaced, entire cultures erased. But the Bible reveals something unsettling. Canaan was not judged overnight. God waited. We often view the conquest as a sudden, brutal invasion, but the Bible frames it differently. In Genesis 15, God tells Abraham his descendants will be strangers in a land not their own for 400 years. Why? For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. 400 years. That is not a delay of punishment, it is a period of probation. Centuries for the Canaanite cultures to turn from practices the text describes as abominations, the ritual burning of children in sacrifice to Molech, cultic prostitution, divinized cruelty. For 4 centuries, the patience of God waited. The full measure of their error had to be reached. Judgment came not because God hated the people, but because evil had become entrenched, generational, and irreversible. Yet even here, mercy broke through. Rahab, a Canaanite woman, turned from corruption. She chose faith, and she was spared. Judgment was never racial. It was moral. But who is this God who acts? This is where we must confront his declared nature. The prophet Isaiah speaks a shocking, comprehensive truth. I form light and create darkness. I make well-being and create calamity. I am the Lord who does all these things. The God of the Bible claims absolute sovereignty, not just over blessing, but over what we perceive as disaster. Not just over creation, but over what we call destruction. He is not locked in a cosmic battle with an equal force of evil. He is the singular authority who, in his wisdom, wields armies, angels, and natural forces as his instruments. He calls Assyria, a brutal empire, the rod of my anger. He sends a destroying angel to Jerusalem, halting only at the threshing floor of Arona. In the Passover, a specific, terrifying agent, the destroyer, passes through Egypt, executing a precise judicial strike against the firstborn of a nation that had enslaved and murdered God's covenant people. This is not random slaughter. It is the mirror of Pharaoh's own edict turned back upon the empire itself. It is controlled. It is purposeful. It is the breaking of an oppressor's power to liberate a people. The prophets understood this tension. Nahum thundered judgment, yet promised restoration. Ezekiel warned of destruction, yet spoke of new hearts. God declared, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that they turn and live. Destruction was never God's desire. It was his last resort. Even exile carried hope. Even ruin carried a promise. God was not erasing Israel. He was refining it. Then something changed. Not God's nature, but God's method. Instead of fire falling on sinners, fire fell on his Son. Jesus did not cancel divine justice, he fulfilled it. Every judgment in the Old Testament pointed forward to a moment when wrath and mercy would collide at the cross. God did not abandon justice, he absorbed it. The destroyer became the redeemer. And this is where the story finds its shocking, breathtaking resolution. We asked why God was a destroyer in the Old Testament. The New Testament reveals the answer, so that he could become the destroyed in the New. The wrath we saw poured out on cities and nations, the judicial holy fire against sin did not disappear. It reached its culmination on a hill outside Jerusalem. On the cross, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, absorbed the full concentrated force of that divine judgment. He became the flood for all who believe, the destroyer passing over us as he himself was struck. He was the Canaanite sacrifice, the sin-bearer utterly consumed, so that in him we could become the sanctuary, the holy nation. The God who wielded the sword of justice laid his own breast upon it. The consuming fire of holiness plunged into the ocean of human sin and was quenched not by extinguishing the fire, but by exhausting the fuel. So we look back at the Old Testament destroyer with new eyes. We do not explain away the horror or the severity, but we see in it the shadow of a greater horror, willingly endured. We see the terrible consistency of a God who hates sin so fiercely, so relentlessly, that he was willing to pursue it to the depths of hell itself. And on the cross, he did. Without the flood, violence would have erased conscience. Without Canaan's judgment, corruption would have consumed Israel. Without Egypt's plagues, oppression would have ruled unchecked. And without the cross, justice would still demand payment. The God who destroys is the God who saves. And the final word is not fire. It is restoration. Because the same voice that once said, "Enough," will one day say, "Behold, I make all things new." If this story challenged you, if it made you wrestle with questions you are never taught to ask, if it revealed a God who is not tame, not small, but terrifyingly holy and relentlessly merciful, then don't walk away unchanged. Subscribe to this channel for more deep, honest explorations of Scripture, not softened, not sensationalized, but revealed in its full weight and wonder. Like this video so it reaches those still asking in silence. Share it with someone who struggles with the God of judgment and needs to see the God of redemption. And stay with us, because the stories most people avoid are often the ones that reveal God most clearly. The journey isn't over.